University, Australia. He is also a grantee of Australian Research Council of his work on internationalization and globalization of mathematics education that resulted into several published books in mathematics education. He is also a renowned international education consultant and has visited several countries in Latin America, Asia, including the Philippines, and have toured several metro cities as well as rural provinces to share his expertise in conducting research, professional development activities, and conference. And to give us the topic on decolonizing research and pedagogy in higher education, may we please welcome our guest of speaker for this morning, Dr. William Bill Atway. A round of applause, please.
And thank you for the organizers and the nation of the university. It's a great honor to be a new part of the community. I refer to it as a collection of paradises everywhere we go, really exciting things. Yesterday we had one drive up the mountains and seeing you was. And most exciting thing about traveling here is meeting new groups of academics and sometimes graduate students and listen to local problems as we have heard today. I decided not to give a lecture. I have a lecture on my laptop, but a lecture usually tells you what the speaker thinks as important. And I know you have a lot of variety of interests and pressing questions that you have on your mind. So I'm just gonna tell you very briefly, about 3 minutes, areas that I have experienced and things that I have done, so that you can choose one to ask a question, but ask a question of your own as well. I'm very good in saying, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. It's all good if I don't. Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
So, if you always tell my audience, if you don't talk to me, I don't talk to you. So I don't have anything prepared. If you don't have any questions, I'll sit down. Okay, what have I done? I started my career in a situation very similar to yours. We were a teachers' college before, and then the government decided thou shalt be a university and thou shalt do research. And we had to learn how to do research and develop cultures of research, same as you. So I have a lot of experiences to say about that, if you want to. And then I became interested in social theories of education. My training was very much into cognitive theories of education. Then I discovered that the sociocultural theories of education give me much more room to think about the problems of education and try to do something about it. So if you want more information about that, I'm very happy to do that. But then I also discovered, at the same time as the social theory, the qualitative research, and I became a convert of qualitative research. So if you have any questions about that, I have many PhD students who went through that whole process with them. The vast majority did qualitative research, but some of them did quantitative research as well. A little bit later, I discovered and was very excited about action research. We invited Stephen Kemmis, some of you may have heard of him, one of the top people who wrote about action research, and he spent some time with us and helped us establish a network in my university. I edited a book with him about action research. So if you have any questions about action research, I'll be very happy to do it. What else? Okay. And at the same time, the internationalization of education has become a very important agenda in Australia. And I was very much involved in international context. You heard that I traveled a lot in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, and many other places. I'm a very lucky man. So I was very active in establishing collaboration with other universities, either face-to-face or on the internet. I would be delighted to share some of that with you. I have a lot of experience in publications, academic writings, I've edited a few books, and I've contributed to journals. If you have any questions about that, I will be delighted to discuss them. I don't have the answers to the questions that you raise. We will have a discussion about it. I'll share what my experience and my views, and then it's up to you how you deal with those questions. One last thing. When I talk, when I write, I always talk from a perspective. I don't believe in objectivity. I'm the most biased person in the world. I talk from a particular perspective. And my perspective is critical theory. Now I want to say a few thoughts about that because I think it's very important. In the context of Philippines, correct me if I'm wrong, being critical is not a good thing. Right? If you're critical, you're too negative, you're too critical, people, it's not polite to criticize people, especially in public. Now, I don't look at critique and being critical in a negative way. Because if I come here and say this university is the best university in the world, you all will be very glad, you will be happy. But nothing changes. So if I come here and say, look, you can do this better, and this is not good enough, and so on, maybe you will feel offended a little bit, and hopefully you will do something about it. For me, critique is an act of love. If you care about something, critique it. Not be negative all the time. Ask questions about it. Why? Why else? It could be a different form. It can be. Critique is an act of love. So allow me to be very critical about everything. About myself, about subjects, about policies, about anything. And always take it in a positive sense that maybe there are other ways of doing things. Okay, enough about myself. And so this question is more difficult.
It's always the most difficult. Could I
Sure,
give it?
please.
Thank you very much, Neil. We've spoken a lot of things already yesterday.
I just would like to start with all of
Before we go into action research and probably hard research, I'd like to ask this, because many times the word globalization, internationalization, are terms that are interchangeably used. But from your perspective, what differentiates globalization from internationalization, and how is it spelled properly in the action in the university? Thank you.
And the third term as well is decolonization.
Correct.
And that was my lecture that is sitting on my computer. I will try to summarize it. One thing to remember, there is no fixed meaning, essential meaning of those terms. Different people may be talking about globalization and maybe arguing with each other, but mainly they're talking about different things. So you always have to be careful how you understand it, and maybe you can understand it in different contexts in different way as well. Okay, so you'll be referring to different phenomena, and always understand what the other person means by them. If you're not clear, ask them. Each one of those terms, and all terms in education, have no essential meaning. Okay? You see that in policy. The education department says constructivism is important. Okay? If I ask all of you here, what do you understand by constructivism and how do you implement it? It will be different answers. Okay, so back to those terms. In my mind, the best definitions or understandings that I gain, globalization is shrinking of the world, okay, both in time and space. Think about how our world is different from our parents' world. If something happened in America, in Africa, we hear about it instantly. Okay? Today, so and so happened. And also the patterns, the food, lifestyles, resources that we have travel around the world a lot. So in one sense, we are aware of differences and similarities. That's an important thing. Globalization to me does not mean all of us are the same. We see young people here cutting their hair and all that kind of thing, wearing ripped jeans, and you say, oh, they're too Americans. They're not. They're not. Okay? They're Filipinos as anybody else. Okay? But they got patterns of clothes and all that kind of thing from another country. It's okay. Okay? Maybe young people in America have some liking to Filipino music and so on. So at the same time that we are becoming the same, we are different and we are learning about our differences. So that's globalization. It's sort of like a feeling, like awareness of sameness and closeness, and the fact that one problem in one country is no longer the problem in that country. Okay? Environmental things, what happens in China affects what happens in outback Laguna. Okay? We share something. And not only that, but political examples about this around the world. Okay? So this is globalization. Internationalization are contacts, programs with international students and faculty exchanges, publications, all of those things. Thinking about education as a business, okay? Exchanging goods and knowledge and money and all of that kind of thing. There's a lot of international. I'm not saying they are bad, but that's what I refer to as internationalization. Obviously, internationalization contributes to globalization, and globalization contributes to now, where does the decolonization come in? Now, those relations, international relationships, are not equal. Okay? We don't export Philippine food the same way as the Americans send us McDonald's. They're not equal. Education, they're not equal. We don't contribute the same as obligations as other countries. So there is a tendency of saying, oh, they're very good, they're advanced, they know what they're talking about. So they have this curriculum, their curriculum says, artificial technology, oh, let's do that. Okay? So the policies and all that kind of thing are adopted. Some of those adoptions have historical reasons. You were told by the Americans for what was happening before that was bad.
Even up to now.
So they have historical reasons. Some of them are more recent. You say, well, America may not be that we depend on another country or another country. So there is a difference between globalization and internationalization and colonization. Okay? Sometimes those are enforced on people, sometimes indirectly, and so on. Now, the word decolonization has not this is the meaning either. I looked up in the definition in the internet, and I came up with about 4 or 5 substantially different meanings. Some of it refer only to indigenous people, some of it refer to people who were colonized politically and militarily colonized by other nations, and some of it in general to say, well, wait a minute, are we contributing knowledge that is relevant to our problems, our values, and our context? Now, my concern is that we cannot talk about decolonization without the context of globalization and internationalization. Why? Because if we just focus on decolonization, we want to find something that is purely Filipino. That means not only geographically, but politically and socially, Philippines is an island disassociated with the rest of the world. On the one hand, I don't think you want that. But to ask questions about the local context, the local values, the local structures, in our research, in our teaching, is very essential. I see a lot of research. The title says, so and so topic study this problem, that problem, in the context of Mindanao. Sounds good. It sounds contextualized. But then I read the article, and I don't recognize anything different from Manila. I would say different from Australia, or New York, or anywhere else. So the title says in Mindanao that there is nothing about Mindanao. Research should look at the local context, not only local problems, but local structures. I read research about in education proposals, and I see that does not reflect the situation in the Philippines. Why? To me, one of the big characteristics of research or education systems in the Philippines is the hierarchical structures. The education department says something, the regional office says something, principals say, translated into what, and then the teacher does it. Same thing as universities. I talk to many students, many teachers, and academics, and one common question that I get in almost every lecture: what if my principal, my dean, my boss doesn't allow me to do that? No. I have not heard that question anywhere else. So it is very typical, what is very dominant around this in the Philippines. Now, I challenge you to tell me one piece of research in education that actually discusses and how did you negotiate your way around to be able to do what you want to do. Does not exist. Family values and authority of teacher, all of those are very significant characteristics of the Philippines. There's total silence about them in research. That we need to be aware of. Include more problems in the Philippines and contributing factors to what we do. We need to include it more. I will say one more thought and then we'll move on. Sorry for the lengthy answer because I think that's very, very important. South Africa 20 years ago, you never hear about their contribution to education. You hear about the political problem, but they did not participate in international conferences, definitely did not try. And then there was a removal of the apartheid regime and the black rule there. And many of them were good researchers. And maybe had trained in the West and so on and so on. And all of a sudden, their presence and contribution to the world was quite significant. How did they do it? They did not do it by repeating the research of different countries. They looked at their problems and they mastered those problems. What are those problems? Poverty, racism, historical affiliations. So most of the international contribution comes from those areas. Multilingual, same problems, very similar problems to the Philippines. And they talk about South Africa. But they use the theories and the language and the research methodologies of the West as well. So they were able to make that international research and say, what does it teach us about schools in South Africa, communities in South Africa, rather than just say, in general, in multilingual classrooms, we do this and we do this and we do that. So South Africa was very prominent in the research. So, does that answer the question?
Yes. And it even raises more.
That's a good question. It was very good.